Hello, and welcome to another episode of In Real Life with Adrena. My name is Adrena. I am the owner and accountant here at Accounting by Adrena. And in today's episode, I have a special guest. Her name is Steph Cartwright, and she is from Off the Clock Resumes. She is a power resume writer. She teaches people how to create and write your own resumes. And she also teaches people how to use LinkedIn. Steph is the certified resume writer, LinkedIn strategist, and solopreneur behind Off the Clock Resumes. Since 2014, she's helped hundreds of job seekers get unstuck and get a foot in the door at the companies they'd love to work for with their resumes, LinkedIn profiles, and job search plans. Steph is certified by the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches and an active member of the National Resume Writers Association. So not only do we talk all about LinkedIn, how to create your profile, what you need to do when you create a profile, but we also get into the details of what you need to do when it comes to networking on LinkedIn. And it's not like what we all think it is, because we all seem to have like this stigma of what we need to do when we're creating our LinkedIn profile. So Steph helps break all of that down, and she helps it. There are going to be so many takeaways in this episode. I'm so excited about it. And let's just jump right into this episode. We'll go ahead and link everything down in the description box below. So you can search for Steph Cartwright on her website. And there's also going to be a LinkedIn course that she talks to us about. All right, tune in. Let's get started with the episode. So I want to start off by asking about your why. Why are you in business? What is it that drives you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know firsthand from experience how absolutely miserable it can be feeling stuck in a job that just doesn't maximize your strengths, or with an employer who undervalues your efforts, or in a career in general that just no longer has opportunity for growth or advancement. I've been there myself. And I fell into resume writing by accident, completely by accident. I was looking for ways to really create a writing career that I love. But I really had no indication at all that this would be so rewarding, helping job seekers that are frustrated and often really discouraged get unstuck and moving forward confidently in their careers, especially that confidence element. That's been something that I never imagined I'd love so much about what I do, and why I keep doing it.
Wow, that's great. So how did the transition happen between, becoming a resume writer and then focusing some of your business on LinkedIn?
Yeah. So when I started back in 2014, I want to say that's right around the time that Microsoft bought LinkedIn. I could be a little off on my years, but it was around that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had kind of dabbled in LinkedIn a little bit, but there wasn't a lot of traction until that purchase. And Microsoft started investing a lot in the user experience and making it a much better searchable database. And so the more I learned about resume writing and the benefits of LinkedIn, the more I realized I got to get my clients involved. And I had a lot of clients that just didn't see the value. So I never really heavily pushed it until even just the last few years that, most fields or industries are going to be found on LinkedIn.
Mm.
There are, I want to say most recently, like over 57 million companies represented on LinkedIn. So I mean, there's so many people on it, and there's so many different types of people on it. So why would you not want to maximize, the opportunity to be found or to find others that will help you move forward in your career? So that was a transition that happened over a couple years. But now I almost only do both resume and LinkedIn packages because my clients are now seeing the benefit of it. And either they have a profile and they're just not seeing results from it, or they're completely new to it and they want to start off with the best foot possible.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I didn't realize that transition happened with Microsoft. And that makes a lot of sense that you're like saying how much they invested in it ever since then, because there was like this shift that did happen. It almost seemed like now everyone is like focusing on LinkedIn, and I'm like, what? Like, what? I don't understand what just happened. But what would you say, like the first thing that a person who is looking for a new career or a new job, what's the first thing that they need to really focus in on when it comes to LinkedIn?
I would say understanding what LinkedIn actually is and how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people go into it thinking it's just another social media site. It's no different than Facebook. The problem is it's so much more than that on the back end. And a lot of people don't really think in terms of that. It's a searchable database. So the more information you give LinkedIn about you, the easier it's going to be for it to, recommend you to people or recommend people to you to connect with, or even not people, but jobs, recommend certain jobs to you or certain opportunities. And I think what I find most fascinating about LinkedIn is it really can be a magnet that can attract career boosting opportunities to you on its own. I mean, your profile needs to be set up completely. It needs to be optimized for searches, but it also needs to be written in a way that's inviting to others. So there's so many different aspects about LinkedIn beyond just its social media. I mean, it really is that magnet that makes you more visible online to the right people.
Yeah, wow, that's interesting. So when it comes to like setting up your profile, you mentioned how it needs to be like searchable and to become that magnet. So in terms of like if I'm a first-time user, creating a profile on LinkedIn, how would I know what are those keywords that I needed to look for when it comes to like creating that magnet effect?
It starts with narrowing down what your goals for using LinkedIn are going to be.
Okay.
So, we'll talk broadly. What are your career goals? Do you want to make business contacts with people in your field or industry, or maybe a new field or industry? Do you want to land speaking engagements or media placements as a thought leader in your industry? Do you want to look for even board leadership opportunities, which is a different type of advancement in your career, or just land a promotion or a new job? Think about what you want to achieve. And then when you go into what your LinkedIn profile should say about you, it should speak specifically to those goals. So when it comes to keywords, a lot of people get really hung up on the word keyword. So I like to use the word search terms. When you go into Google, these are the search terms that you're using. So it's the same concept with LinkedIn. And you got to think in terms of what your career goals are and what someone on LinkedIn would be using as a search term to find someone to fill those opportunities. So it really varies based on your career goals. So what I say for, job seekers is think in terms of position titles and skills that are needed to perform the job that you want to have. Those would be great terms to make sure are found all over your LinkedIn profile, not just in your headline, not just in your about section, but everywhere throughout your profile. And I see a lot of people with search terms, they start with the skills section, and that's all they really add those terms to and those keywords to. But the entire profile is searchable. So the more you add these details in and the more details you add, the more likely you're going to be found by those people on LinkedIn who are using it to find someone like you. I've seen this statistic. There was a study done by Resume Go where they found that job seekers with a comprehensive LinkedIn profile, so comprehensive versus bare bones, someone who completely filled out everything versus, they added position titles but no details, or, they skipped the about section. They're 71 times more likely to land an interview than someone with that bare bones profile because they're being found that much faster. So I think it's really important to think in terms of making your profile crystal clear to whoever you're targeting, whoever that profile viewer that you want to find you and reach out to you. Make it crystal clear what those career goals of yours are and what you want to be contacted for.
Yeah, that's really, really great. I think one of the defaults that I was told about many years ago when it comes to creating my profile on LinkedIn is to use the words that are written in like the job description that I was looking for. So that feels in alignment with what you're talking about as far as like figuring out what career goals you have, or, what is the next step in why you're using LinkedIn. I didn't realize you could search for like board placement through LinkedIn. That's a pretty neat thing. And a lot of people are looking for like board placements too. So that's really handy to know. Is that like a really good place to start as far as like keeping the section as detailed as possible with starting with like the job description that you're looking for?
Yeah, that's a really good place to start because the nice thing about at least well-written job postings, because some of them are kind of garbage
uh,
and they really don't give you enough detail to work with,
mhm,
but really well-written job descriptions will not just list requirements, which will be very crystal clear what search terms or keywords you would need to include. So
mhm,
those will be qualifications and skills,
mhm.
certifications, even technologies or software skills. Those are going to be really crystal clear. The great thing about job descriptions, too, though, is a lot of them will indicate what the goals of the role are. And this is something I focus on with my clients, not just with their profiles, but also their resumes, is really speaking to what the goals of the role you're pursuing are. So even if you don't have experience in every single one of like the tasks or responsibilities, if you can at least say, but I can do this and it's related to the goal, it's going to really help connect the dots between you as a person and why you're the best fit for that particular role compared to someone else who probably isn't thinking in those terms and just listing very brief details about skills and experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I feel like a lot of that makes sense of what you're talking about, and it's very applicable for people who are watching this video too, because I think that's really tangible advice that they can use. So yeah, thank you for that information. When it comes to your LinkedIn profile, what would be like the sections that, let's say someone is just starting to create their profile, what are the sections that they should be focusing in on?
Yeah, so LinkedIn determines a complete profile is something that has a headline, a profile photo,
Mm,
at least two past jobs and a current job with those descriptions, something in your education section, at least 5 skills, and then you've got to set your location and your industry. So
mhm.
that's really all that's necessary for a profile to be considered complete by LinkedIn standards. But that really doesn't give a ton of great detail as to where you should focus in on. So don't skip any sections if you have those experiences, but the areas you really want to focus in on are, I would say, your headline and your about section. You've got two different types of LinkedIn viewers. They're the type that skip over and go straight to your experience section, and then there's those who only read the top part, your headline and your about section, and they won't even look at your experience section. So you've got to kind of cover all of your bases, no matter, who's going to be looking at your profile.
Mhm.
So I would say two of the most underutilized sections on a LinkedIn profile are the headline and the about section. Your headline, you'll see more often than not job seekers or just any LinkedIn user listing just their position title and employer name or company name. And this really doesn't serve them because those search terms aren't found in it. But beyond that, your headline needs to accomplish two different things. It needs to help you appear in search results, but then it's one of the most visible details about you in those search results. So
Mhm.
it needs to encourage someone to want to click and get to know you more. It's got to have something that catches their attention. And so I see very often this being underutilized. They actually recently, within the last couple years, increased the character count from 120 characters to 220 characters.
Ah.
You have quite a bit of space to really brand yourself as, these are the problems that I solve. These are my top
Mhm.
achievements. This is why
Mhm.
you should want to get to know me more.
Mhm.
And it's also a great place to indicate what those career goals are. I have seen some people list, where they've been featured in the media in their headline or, board leadership experience in their headlines. You can definitely tie those things in to make it more known that this is what you're using LinkedIn for.
Mhm.
And then the same with the about section. One of the most common mistakes I see is they copy and paste what's on their resume summary into their LinkedIn about section. And first of all, that resume summary should be tailored for every job you apply for. It should speak to
Mhm.
the specific goals of the role you're targeting. That
Mhm.
doesn't really help you with LinkedIn, and it
Mhm.
really isn't inviting anyone to want to like talk to you and get to know you more. So you actually have, I want to say 2,600 characters to work with in this about section. So you can really go in and talk about the problems that you can solve, what your career goals are, give some career highlights, things that they wouldn't necessarily see unless they, dove deeper into your experience section, which they may not. And you can really use that section to sell yourself. I mean, I think with business owners, what we tend to do is try to use this section like an about page on a website or a sales page on a website where we talk about the problems that we solve for our clients. Job seekers and other professionals on LinkedIn can use the about section in the exact same way and see far more results. And when I'm talking about results, I'm talking about profile views, connection requests, messages, introductions that actually relate to their career goals. So actually seeing some traction with LinkedIn versus just creating a profile, setting it and forgetting it.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much like what I do is like, I think about LinkedIn maybe once a month and then like I go in and check it. But I think what you were talking about in as far as like the headline is concerned, I love the idea of like making that headline kind of like stand out as to what are the problems that you solve. So the headline really isn't about you.
Exactly.
And it's about maybe the goal that you're looking for. What is that problem that you have the expertise in, and you can sell that in your headline. I love that idea. And I hadn't even thought about that before. So that's really, really helpful. So when you already have like your profile set up and everything's, in there and it looks great, what would be like the next thing that you need to do as far as like, what's the practicality? What does it look like day to day when you're checking LinkedIn? Like how do you, like what would be the next step for people to find that role that they're looking for, that next goal?
I think most of the job seekers that I've worked with, and I'm sure they're not alone, find it really difficult to know what to do next or how to actually use LinkedIn beyond the profile. Because,
Yeah.
A complete and optimized profile really isn't enough. It's a networking platform. It's a platform to connect you to people that you want to uh, either get to know because you're trying to expand your network, you're trying to grow in your career, maybe find a mentor or be a mentor. You're trying to use LinkedIn to meet other people in a networking capacity, but networking tends to be very time consuming and overwhelming to a lot of people. I'm an introvert. I
Yeah.
hate networking events. I will put on a brave face, but I shake, my voice quivers. I hate networking events. It is the most uncomfortable thing for me. But LinkedIn is great because there really is strength behind a screen where, you don't quite have um, that fear necessarily when you're online versus in public and you're a little bit more transparent and exposed. I think what LinkedIn does that's really great is it creates a platform where networking doesn't have to be time consuming or overwhelming or uncomfortable. It can be just small, simple actions. Something that a lot of LinkedIn users don't realize is just commenting on a post in your feed. That is networking. That is contributing to a conversation and continuing a conversation. That is no different than in a networking event. It's just a little comment. So adding thoughtful insights or asking questions, that alone, that simple act in itself is a form of networking. So what I always want to encourage job seekers or any LinkedIn user to do is start spending maybe 10 minutes a day, set an alarm on your phone, spend 10 minutes a day. And during that time, join in conversations through comments, just 2 comments in that 10 minutes. Starting conversations by posting a status update. And a lot of people get really concerned, like, well, what do I share on LinkedIn? It can be sharing an article that's relevant to, what you do. And in that little comment box, or not the comment box, the status update box, sharing some personal insights or asking a question, asking what your network thinks about it. That's starting a networking conversation right there. Making sure that you're, growing your network by either joining groups. Joining groups is a great way to start getting more curated information in your feed that is relevant to you that you'll want to engage with.
Hmm.
There's also reaching out to past coworkers or past classmates that you hadn't really thought of, even if they're not relevant to your career goals. You never know who they may know
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
can, really introduce you to and introduce opportunities to you through that little networking conversation. And then also, really cultivating those relationships through messaging. I always like to say networking is really just turning business contacts into professional friendships. And the way we do that is by messaging and asking
Mm-hmm.
genuinely, what are you working on? What are you excited about? What's new with you? What are your concerns? What are some challenges? And actually showing interest in what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going to cultivate that relationship that can lead to business opportunities or career opportunities that wouldn't have presented themselves otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. And, I would even say a large portion of my clientele is based off of referrals. It's always,
Yep.
someone knew someone and they sent me your email address, so, and then of course I have the whole other SEO on Google, but a large portion of that is based on referrals. And so the more you can network by using LinkedIn and creating and engaging in meaningful conversations and discussions, the more you can expand your network and figure out what's the next step, what's going to be the next step for you as a job seeker.
Yeah, LinkedIn even has data that says 70% of jobs are found through personal connections. So, finding job opportunities faster means investing more time in building that network and putting yourself out there versus scrolling through job boards and filling out never ending applications over and over and over again. You're
Yep.
going to find those jobs faster. And even LinkedIn says that a third of people say that a casual conversation on LinkedIn messaging led to a new opportunity. And they're not talking just about new jobs, but new opportunities in general. So that can
Mm-hmm.
be, communicating with, if you're a professional and you want to land some thought leadership opportunities, that may look like, media placements. So
Mm-hmm.
reaching out to journalists at publications and starting conversations with them. What are some articles that you've got coming up? What sort of expertise are you looking for? And just having those more casual conversations that aren't salesy and they aren't, I'm looking for this. What can you do for me? But just more
Mm-hmm.
of that casual conversation
Yeah.
can really make a huge difference.
It also feels a little bit more genuine too, when you think about it, because it's like, I guess maybe organic is the word I'm looking for too, because it's just kind of born out of this like casual, like, let's just, talk casually and let's be friends. And then maybe that's going to lead us to collaborating on an article or whatever that next thing is, joining a LinkedIn group. So that's really helpful. So as far as like the things that you offer in your business, so are you just doing one-on-one resume writing and consultations with LinkedIn, or is there another thing that you have going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, I actually have been trying to reach a much wider group of people because I am a one woman show. I'm the solopreneur behind Off the Clock Resumes. So I do all of my client work one on one. So there's only so many people I can help in a given week or a given month. So I've been over the years really developing resources and tools and workshops that will be helpful to those who need help with their resumes, LinkedIn profiles, networking, and different job search strategies. So, one of the things I really wanted to share was my LinkedIn profile workshop, the 3 steps to transform your bare bones LinkedIn profile into a networking machine. So, this is a $47 on demand workshop that really shares what updates you need to make to start landing those connection requests, those messages, those introductions that are going to land those career goal opportunities, no matter what those opportunities are.
Mm-hmm.
So I do cover pretty much examples for what your profile should say about you, no matter what those career goals are, especially the ones that I hit on during this particular chat with you. Not everyone is looking for a new job. Sometimes we want to,
Mm-hmm.
position ourselves for a promotion. Maybe we
Mm-hmm.
want to position ourselves for those media placements or, other opportunities for thought leadership. There are so many different ways to approach your profile. So this workshop breaks down where each section needs to focus on and what they should say about you based on those goals.
Nice. Wow, that's awesome. I love that. That's a wonderful opportunity for anybody who's watching this video to learn a little bit more about like what you need, or probably a lot more, not a little bit, what you need when it comes to LinkedIn, your profile, and engaging and putting yourself out there as like networking. I know networking is always hard for me too, so it's helpful if you have like some sort of guide to walk you through it. That's going to be really beneficial for you guys. Well, is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you wanted to mention? Or, I always like to talk in terms of like, what are some things that you're doing for as far as self-care is concerned? Because I know that like the past couple of years obviously haven't been, what we're normally used to. And so we have to figure out ways of, keeping ourselves sane.
No, that's a great question. I personally have struggled with anxiety over many, many years, not just the last couple years. And so it's really important for me to check in with myself
Mhm.
and be responsive to what I need. I've found that I really can't serve my clients, especially at the capacity that I try to, work with clients. I can't serve them to the best of my ability if I'm just completely empty.
Mhm.
So, really factoring times to rest and recharge. I actually have a couple weeks I'm taking off here very quickly within the next few weeks, just so that I can really spend some time with family, recharge, rethink, the next months, what direction I want to go, and that's also why I created some of these courses and workshops so that you're still getting the help that you need, but it's not necessarily going to be one-on-one with me from start to finish.
Mhm.
Most of my offerings have a little bit of a personal touch to them, so you're still going to get some feedback from me, but I found it's really important for me to prioritize that rest and recharge time in my life.
Yes, definitely. That is so, so, so important. I have an alarm that goes off at the end of each day, reminding me to like stop working.
I do too. I do too. It drives my husband crazy because it during the summertime it tells me to go outside so that
Yeah,
I actually
yeah.
get myself outside. I'm in the sunshine,
Uh,
playing with our dogs or whatever. And then in the winter months, it just says wrap it up. And so
yeah.
it talks to me, and my husband's like, "Are you gonna wrap it up? You gonna wrap it up?" And I do the exact same thing. It's so important.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise I feel like I'm just gonna lose track of all time and just like keep working throughout like the evening hours too, which isn't healthy at
Oh,
all.
I used to. I used to work late into the evenings.
Yeah.
My husband used to work 8 on, 6 off, so he'd be gone a week at a time. And so those nights I'd be working 12, 14-hour days just because I could. And in a lot of ways I enjoyed it, but it really had a negative impact on me overall that I
Yeah.
didn't realize until it was too late. So yeah, I do really set those boundaries for work hours now and setting aside time in my year, a couple weeks in the summer, a couple weeks in the winter to just no more client projects, just step aside and rest, recharge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so helpful. I love that. Well, thank you very much for spending time with us. I'm so glad we got to have this chat.
Yeah.
And
Thank you so much for having me.
yeah, and then we'll go ahead and link everything from Steph's courses to her website. And maybe if you wanted to work one-on-one with her, we'll link all of that in the description box below. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.